For some, you may be celebrating the flower communion for the first time today. The flower communion service was originated by Dr. Norbert Čapek in his native Czechoslovakia in 1923. It's sometimes referred to as the flower communion, and it is perhaps the most widely celebrated ritual in Unitarian Universalist congregations today, and it is my favorite ritual. Because flowers are so versatile with such different meanings, over the years, people have integrated this particular ritual into both child dedications and memorial services. Every spring, most of our churches and fellowships devote a Sunday to this festive participatory service which celebrates both the earth's beauty and humanity's oneness. Dr. Čapek created the flower ceremony, which is sometimes referred to as flower communion, to celebrate the diversity in his congregation. For some time, he had felt the need for some symbolic ritual that would bind people more closely together. The format had to be something that would not alienate any individuals who had forsaken other religious traditions. For instance, the traditional Christian communion service with bread and wine was unacceptable to the members of his congregation because of their strong reaction against the Catholic faith. So he turned to the native beauty of their countryside for elements of a communion which would be genuine to them. People were asked to bring a flower of their choice from their own gardens or from the fields or roadside. And when they arrived at church, a large vase stood waiting in the vestibule, attended by 2 young members of the church school. Each person was asked to place their own flower in the vase, just as you did today. This signified that it was by their own free will they joined with the others. After the service, as people left the church, they each took a flower from the vase other than the one that they brought, and that is what you will do at the end of today's service. The significance of the flower communion is that as no 2 flowers are alike, just as no 2 people are alike, each has a contribution to make. The vase that contained all the flowers was a symbol of the United Church Fellowship. Moreover, this simple service was such a success that it was held yearly just before the summer recess of the church and continues today, which is why I always hold it on the last Sunday before I go off for summer vacation. Each flower involved in the service should symbolize the personality, spirit, and beauty of a particular human being, just as the flowers do that you saw in our slideshow today. There was the enchanting and iconic bluebell, their unmistakable bell-shaped perennials, a favorite with the fairies, and a sure sign that spring is in full swing. Then there's the red poppies. They're a symbol of remembrance and hope for a peaceful future, and they're worn as a show of support for the armed forces community and to honor those who served and died for their country in all wars. This tradition began after Canadian soldier and physician Major John McCrae wrote the poem In Flanders Fields about the blood-red poppies that grew among soldiers' graves along the Western Front. Then there's the bluebonnet that is predominantly found in the Southwest and is a common sight along the highways. It's also the state flower of Texas, and the shape of the petals on the flower resembles the bonnets worn by pioneer women to shield them from the sun. Texas wildflowers are quite common in the eastern half of the United States and grow during the spring and summer. They can be found in fields, meadows, pastures, grasslands, open woodlands, and roadsides. Over 1,000 different species have been documented blooming at various times throughout DeWitt County. In 1999, DeWitt County was named the wildflower capital of Texas. Ceremony is an excellent opportunity for Unitarian Universalist congregations to express their commitment to our sixth principle. We covenant to affirm and promote the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. Together, the different flowers form a beautiful common bouquet. And just as our common bouquet would not be the same without the unique addition of each individual flower, UUNB would not be the same without each and every one of you. Therefore, this service is a statement of our community, a community bouquet of people, as Claire Feingold-Thorne shares in the following prayer, a bouquet of people. Let us give thanks for a bouquet of people. We give thanks for children. Like tulips and iris, they multiply around us, making the world ever more filled with color, beauty, and new life. May we bless them as they replant themselves even further from us, knowing that they need their own space to grow into. We give thanks for generous friends, a constant in bloom as echinacea, and whose gifts lift up our body and spirit. We give thanks for feisty friends as indomitable as geraniums, and for continuous friends who, like bittersweet and ivy, hold on and never let go, and can never be gotten rid of. For crotchety friends, as prickly as rose bushes, their beauty a secret that is only discovered through careful gardening. For surprising friends, who at first glance seem dour and then blossom into joy as quickly as forsythia. For funny friends, silly as snapdragons, and serious friends, complex as chrysanthemums. For comfortable friends, their gentle presence as soothing as the sweet smell of lilacs. For stormy weather friends, who stand by us in hard times, like lily of the valley, that cannot be deterred by shade or shadow. For old friends, nodding like sunflowers in the evening time, and young friends, coming on fast as flocks. For friends as unpretentious as dogwood, as persistent as pachysandra, as steadfast as azalea, and who, like snowdrops, can be counted on to see you through the winter and remind you that spring always comes. For loving friends who wind around us like wisteria and embrace us, despite our blights, wilts, and witherings. And finally, for forget-me-not friends, gone but never forgotten. Their beauty lives on in our memories and hearts. For this bouquet of people who brighten our lives, each in their own way, we give thanks. How, you may ask, did Unitarian Universalists in the United States come to be introduced to and embrace this ritual? Well, in 1940, during a tour of the United States, Dr. Chopik's wife, Maya, introduced the flower communion, which had been developed in the Prague Church, to the Unitarian Church in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Unfortunately, she was unable to return to Prague due to the outbreak of World War II. And it wasn't until the war was over that Norbert Chopik's death in a Nazi concentration camp was revealed. When the Nazis took control of Prague in 1940, Nazi court records show that they found Dr. Chopik's gospel of the inherent worth and beauty of every human person to be too dangerous to the Reich for him to be allowed to live. How much of those same thoughts exist in our world today? even amongst the freedom that we have in this country. LGBTQ plus youth are at a higher risk of suicide because of the way they are mistreated and stigmatized by society. Moreover, a study of more than 6.6 million people found that those who identified as trans had 7.7 times the rate of suicide attempts and 3.5 times the rate of suicide deaths than the broader population. It's risky to be Unitarian Universalists, standing on the 7 principles that we hold dear. However, the liberal voice and the message of Unitarian Universalism continues to have an important place in society. By exchanging flowers, we show our willingness to walk together in our search for truth, disregarding all that might divide us. When each person takes home a flower brought by someone else, this symbolizes our shared celebration in community. This communion of sharing is essential to a free people of a free religion. Dr. Chopik was sent to Dachau, where he was killed the next year during a Nazi alleged medical experiment. This gentle man suffered a cruel death, but his message of human hope and decency lives on through his flower communion. Just before he was put to death in the camp, Dr. Chopik wrote this prayer reflecting on his own life and the state of his spirit. It reads as follows: "It is worthwhile to live and fight courageously for sacred ideals. Though evil winds blow into my body's fire, my soul will never unravel. Even though disappointed 1,000 times or fallen in the fight and everything would seem worthless, I have lived amidst eternity. My soul is grateful. My life was worth living. Those who are pressed from all sides but remain victorious in spirit is welcomed into the choir of heroes. Those who overcome the fetters given wing to the mind, entering into the golden age of the victorious. From my heart to yours, may it be so."